Forget everything you thought you knew about ancient warfare. In the Battle of the Trench, an unexpected strategy, digging a massive ditch, turned the tide against a colossal invading army. But how did this unconventional defense come about? And what extraordinary events unfolded during those desperate days? Get ready to explore the pivotal moments, the surprising heroes, and the incredible divine aid that defined one of history's most critical standoffs. This is the story of how the impossible became reality. The Battle of the Trench, also known as the Battle of the Confederates, Ahzab, didn't emerge from a vacuum. It was the culmination of rising tensions and strategic maneuvers, primarily orchestrated by a group seeking to eliminate the growing Muslim community in Medina. The roots of the conflict trace back to the Jewish tribe of Banu Nadir. They had a pact, the Charter of Medina, with the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, to live in peace and mutual defense. However, they repeatedly violated this agreement, even plotting to assassinate the Prophet. Their treachery led to their expulsion from Medina, and they relocated to Khaybar. It was from here that their desire for revenge festered and became a catalyst for the massive alliance against the Muslims. A key figure in igniting the conflict was Huyai ibn Akhtab, a prominent leader from Banu Nadir. Driven by animosity and a thirst for retaliation, Huyai traveled to Makkah to meet with Abu Sufyan, the leader of the Quraysh, who had their own grievances against the Muslims after previous defeats. His objective was clear: to form a formidable alliance that would crush the Muslim presence in Medina once and for all. Huyai's efforts proved highly effective. The alliance steadily grew, drawing in numerous other tribes who felt threatened by the rise of Islam or had personal scores to settle. Tribes such as Banu Asad, Banu Murrah, Banu Hujan, and Banu Ghatafan joined the coalition, swelling the ranks of the invading force. This grand confederacy amassed an overwhelming army, estimated to be around 10,000 strong, a number far superior to the Muslim forces. Despite the secrecy of the Confederates' preparations, news of the impending attack reached Medina. A member of the Banu Khuza'a tribe, who were allies of the Muslims, bravely conveyed the warning to the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. This timely intelligence was absolutely vital, giving the Muslims precious time to prepare for an enemy force unlike any they had faced before. Upon receiving intelligence about the impending massive Confederate army, the Muslims in Medina faced an unprecedented challenge. Their response was a testament to strategic thinking, collective effort, and divine blessings. The situation in Medina was far from ideal. The city was experiencing a period of drought and scarcity, making resources scarce even before the threat of the war. More critically, the Muslim fighting force numbered only around 3,000 men, a stark contrast to the estimated 10,000 strong Confederate army. This numerical disadvantage, combined with the presence of hypocrites, munafiqeen, within their ranks, made a conventional open battle highly perilous. Faced with this dire situation, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, convened a consultation, shura, with his companions to devise a defense strategy. It was during this crucial meeting that Salman al-Farisi, a companion from Persia, proposed an ingenious and then unconventional idea for Arab warfare: digging a deep trench. This strategy, common in Persia for defending cities, was completely new to the Arabs and promised to neutralize the Confederates' numerical superiority in cavalry. The proposal was immediately adopted. The trench was meticulously planned and dug along the open northern side of Medina, which was vulnerable to attack. The dimensions were formidable, an estimated 7 to 15 meters wide and 3 to 5 meters deep. A staggering 1,000 men were mobilized for this arduous task, working tirelessly in groups to complete the monumental defense before the enemy arrived. The digging of the trench was not without its challenges or its wonders. The Great Boulder. During excavation, the companions encountered a massive boulder that proved impossible to break. When informed, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, took a pickaxe himself. With each powerful strike, the boulder shattered, emitting blinding flashes of light. With each flash, the Prophet gave joyous prophecies of the future conquests of Syria, Persia, and Yemen, boosting the morale of the weary workers. Multiplication of food. Another remarkable event involved Jabir ibn Abdillah. Noticing the Prophet tying a stone to his stomach due to hunger, Jabir invited him for a humble meal. To Jabir's astonishment, the Prophet invited all the trench diggers, around 1,000 people. Miraculously, the small amount of food was sufficient for everyone present, with some still remaining afterwards, providing sustenance and reaffirming their faith during a challenging time. The arrival of the massive Confederate army at the outskirts of Medina marked the beginning of a prolonged and intense siege. However, the enemy quickly encountered an unforeseen obstacle that disrupted their initial plans. The Confederate forces, brimming with confidence due to their overwhelming numbers, were utterly stunned to find a massive trench blocking their path. This defensive maneuver was completely alien to their traditional Arab warfare tactics. Unable to cross the formidable barrier, the siege quickly devolved into a stalemate, primarily characterized by exchanges of arrows across the trench. This prolonged standoff, however, yielded no significant breakthroughs for either side, frustrating the attackers. Frustrated by the impregnable trench, Abu Sufyan, the leader of the Quraysh and the overall commander of the Confederate forces, conceived a sinister plan. He aimed to exploit internal divisions within Medina by inciting the Banu Qurayza, the last remaining Jewish tribe in the city, to betray their pact with the Muslims and attack from within. This would create a two-front war for the Muslims, severely weakening their defense. To carry out this treacherous plot, Huyay ibn Akhtab of Banu Nadir, a long-standing enemy of the Muslims, was dispatched to the fortress of Banu Qurayza. Despite initial reluctance from Ka'b ibn Asad, the leader of Banu Qurayza, Huyay's persistent persuasion and ominous warnings about the inevitable defeat of the Muslims eventually won him over. Ka'b agreed to break the treaty, placing the Muslim community in extreme peril. News of Banu Qurayza's potential betrayal reached the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, who immediately dispatched Sa'ad ibn Mu'adh to verify the alarming reports. Sa'ad's return confirmed the worst fears. Banu Qurayza had indeed revoked their agreement, aligning themselves with the Confederate forces. This act of treachery was a devastating blow, opening up the undefended southern flank of Medina and presenting a critical new threat to the besieged Muslims. The betrayal of Banu Qurayza plunged the Muslim community into an even more precarious state. With an enemy at the gate and a threat from within, the situation became dire, demanding immediate and innovative responses. The news of Banu Qurayza's betrayal was a crushing blow. Medina's southern flank, previously considered secure due to the treaty with Banu Qurayza, was now exposed and undefended. This meant the Muslims were effectively surrounded, facing a potential attack from two directions, while their main force was committed to defending the trench in the north. In this moment of extreme vulnerability, an extraordinary act of courage occurred. Safiya bint Abd al-Muttalib, the Prophet's aunt, was in a fortress sheltering women and children. When a Jewish spy attempted to infiltrate their stronghold, Safiya, demonstrating remarkable quick thinking and bravery, killed the spy herself. This decisive action foiled a potentially devastating attack on the most vulnerable members of the community, preventing panic and further chaos. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was forced to make difficult strategic adjustments. To counter the new threat from Banu Qurayza, he had to reduce the number of soldiers defending the main trench, sending them to establish a defense on the southern side of Medina. This reallocation of resources further strained the already outnumbered Muslim forces. The heightened tension and the news of betrayal also caused the hypocrites, munafiqin, who were already wavering in their commitment, to abandon the trench, leaving the true believers to bear the full burden of the defense. In a desperate attempt to break the Confederate alliance, the Prophet Muhammad, PBUH, initiated negotiations with Banu Ghatafan, one of the largest and most influential tribes in the enemy coalition. The proposal was to offer them a portion of Medina's date harvest in exchange for their withdrawal from the siege. However, this agreement was ultimately cancelled due to the strong objection of the Ansar leaders, particularly Sa'ad ibn Mu'adh and Sa'ad ibn Ubadah, who felt it would compromise Medina's dignity and believed in divine assistance. This decision, while principled, meant the Muslims had to continue facing the full might of the united enemy. As the siege dragged on, a series of pivotal events, marked by both human ingenuity and undeniable divine assistance, began to turn the tide in favor of the beleaguered Muslims. The Confederate army, desperate to end the stalemate, made determined efforts to breach the trench. Some elite warriors, including the renowned champion Amr ibn Wood, managed to leap across in attempts to provoke direct combat. This led to intense arrow exchanges and skirmishes. During one such engagement, Sa'ad ibn Mu'adh, a revered leader of the Ansar, was severely wounded by an arrow, adding to the distress of the Muslim camp. A remarkable turning point came with the secret conversion of Nu'aym ibn Mas'ud, a prominent leader from the Ghatafan tribe, to Islam. He approached the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, offering his services. With the Prophet's approval, Nu'aym orchestrated a brilliant act of psychological warfare. He masterfully went to each party in the Confederacy, the Quraysh, the Ghatafan, and the Banu Qurayza, and spread false rumors designed to sow discord and mistrust among them. He told the Quraysh and Ghatafan that the Banu Qurayza would demand hostages before joining the fight, and he warned the Banu Qurayza that the other tribes would abandon them. This clever deception successfully undermined the Confederacy's unity. Amidst the tense standoff, Amr ibn Wood, a formidable and arrogant Quraysh champion, successfully leaped over the trench and issued a challenge for single combat. His boasts were met with silence until Ali ibn Abi Talib, the Prophet's cousin and son-in-law, stepped forward to accept the challenge. A fierce duel ensued, culminating in Ali's decisive victory over Amr ibn Wood. This triumph was a massive morale boost for the Muslims and a significant blow to the Confederates. Even after Amr's defeat, the Confederates' resolve wasn't entirely broken. Khalid ibn al-Walid, then still an opponent of Islam and a skilled military commander, also attempted to force his way across the trench. However, like others before him, he ultimately failed to make a significant breakthrough and had to retreat, further highlighting the effectiveness of the trench defense. As the siege dragged on, the Confederate alliance, already weakened by the clever deceptions of Nu'aym ibn Mas'ud and the failure to breach the trench, began to unravel, leading to their ultimate withdrawal. The false rumors spread by Nu'aym ibn Mas'ud created deep distrust and suspicion within the Confederate ranks, particularly between the Banu Qurayza and the Quraysh Ghatafan. Coupled with their repeated failures to overcome the trench and the dwindling supplies due to the long siege, despair began to set in among the invading forces. Their morale plummeted as their grand plan to swiftly defeat the Muslims proved futile. At this critical juncture, divine intervention provided the decisive blow. Allah sent a furious and devastating windstorm upon the Confederate camps. This wasn't just a strong wind. It was a tempest that ripped apart their tents, extinguished their campfires, scattered their supplies, and caused immense chaos and fear among the soldiers and their animals. The severity of the storm made it impossible for them to maintain their encampment or their fighting spirit. Completely demoralized and battered by the storm, Abu Sufyan had no choice but to admit defeat. He ordered his forces to return to Mecca. One by one, the other allied tribes, including the Ghatafan, followed suit, abandoning the siege and retreating from Medina. This marked the definitive end of the Battle of the Trench, a testament to the effectiveness of strategic defense, the power of psychological warfare, and the undeniable role of divine assistance in the face of overwhelming odds.